Introduction to the arena. The Andromeda system was a vast expanse of stars, home to countless civilizations, each with its own unique strengths and weaknesses. Among these, the Fex reigned supreme, their martial prowess legendary across galaxies. With reflexes faster than any recorded species and towering frames built for war, they struck fear into those who dared challenge their superiority. For eons, few had possessed the courage or folly to question their dominance. Those who did often paid with their lives. Today, however, something unusual was unfolding on the training grounds of Karaos, the military capital of the Fex. This planet was no ordinary world. It was a battlefield designed for one purpose: to forge ferric warriors into the ultimate soldiers. Massive spires of rock rose from the ground, piercing a crimson sky that seemed perpetually ablaze. Rivers of molten metal flowed through valleys, creating an otherworldly landscape that felt as if it had been torn from the heart of a dying star. The ground trembled constantly beneath the weight of warriors training on its surface, as if the planet itself could feel their tension. A diverse crowd had gathered around the central arena, a vast circular stage surrounded by towering metallic stands. This arena had borne witness to countless battles over the years, but today's duel was unlike any that had come before it. A human, a mere human, would face one of the Fex top champions in single combat. To most spectators, this notion was absurd. Humans were known for their intellect and adaptability, but not for their combat skills, at least not in comparison to beings like the Fex. Ethan Foster stood at the edge of the arena, gazing out at the alien landscape before him. His sleek black armor shimmered under twin suns blazing high above, casting long shadows across the ground. He was tall, just under 6 feet, with short cropped brown hair and piercing green eyes that revealed little emotion. His expression was calm, almost serene, as if he were not about to face one of the most feared warriors in existence. Around him, whispers filled the air in countless languages he couldn't understand. Yet he could feel their doubt. He could sense their skepticism about why a human would dare accept such a challenge. But Ethan didn't mind. He had faced worse odds before, much worse. On the opposite side of the arena stood Zur, towering over 8 feet tall, with reptilian skin that glimmered in shades of deep green. His muscular frame seemed almost too large for his heavy armor. Every inch exuded raw power. Zur's eyes narrowed with predatory intensity as they locked onto Ethan with cold determination. His reputation as an undefeated warrior had spread far and wide. He had trained since birth, honing his skills through countless battles across galaxies. To him, this duel was merely a formality, a way to teach this human a lesson in humility. Zur flexed his massive hands, claws gleaming ominously in the light. His weapon of choice, a plasma-bladed war axe, was strapped to his back, its edge glowing faintly with dangerous heat. As he made his way to center stage, each heavy boot echoed across the stands like thunderclaps announcing an impending storm. Ethan glanced at Zur, silently measuring him up. He had heard stories about Fex warriors. They were masters of close-quarters combat whose sheer size and strength made them nearly unbeatable in one-on-one duels. But size wasn't everything. He knew that better than anyone else. Trained by Earth's finest military experts and forged in countless skirmishes on distant planets, he understood that true combat relied on strategy, adaptability, and above all else, the ability to outthink one's opponent. A voice crackled over the arena loudspeakers announcing the duel in Fex tongue, followed by a translation in Galactic Basic. Today, we witness a challenge between two warriors. On one side, Zur of the Ferric High Guard, undefeated in over 100 duels. On the other, Ethan Foster, human representative of Earth. The terms are simple. The battle ends when one combatant is unable to continue. The crowd erupted into cheers and jeers. Many were already placing bets on Zur's victory. Even among those who prided themselves on open-mindedness, few could fathom a human defeating a Fex champion in combat. Ethan moved towards center stage with measured steps. He carried no visible weapon, a fact that hadn't gone unnoticed by anyone present. But he didn't need one, not yet. His training emphasized patience, waiting for just the right moment to strike. He had always excelled at reading opponents' movements and understanding their weaknesses before they even made their first move. As both warriors stood opposite each other, tension thickened in the air like fog rolling over a battlefield at dawn. The crowd fell silent. Every eye was fixed on them, the two figures poised on either side of destiny. Somewhere in the distance, a horn sounded, a signal marking the start of this monumental duel. Zur wasted no time. With a deafening roar, he charged forward, swinging his plasma axe in a wide arc aimed directly at Ethan's head. The sheer speed and power behind that attack could have pulverized any lesser opponent instantly. But Ethan wasn't just any opponent. With fluid grace reminiscent of water flowing around rocks in a stream, Ethan sidestepped Zur's blow by mere inches as it embedded itself into ground below with an explosive hiss of molten metal erupting around it. Zur snarled in frustration as he yanked his weapon free from its molten prison and swung again, this time aiming straight for Ethan's torso. But once again, Ethan ducked under it effortlessly. The Fex champion grew more aggressive with each strike. His attacks became increasingly powerful but also more reckless as desperation began creeping into his movements while Ethan remained calm, his mind working like an intricate machine analyzing every detail about Zur's fighting style. Zur relied heavily on brute force. His confidence was beginning to show cracks as minutes passed without landing even a single blow against this elusive human adversary who danced just out of reach each time, like smoke slipping through fingers grasping at air. The crowd began murmuring amongst themselves, doubt rippling through them like waves crashing upon shorelines battered by storms long forgotten. Something was wrong here. Zur wasn't just struggling. He was losing control over this fight, against someone they never expected would stand toe-to-toe with him. As sweat dripped down Zur's brow mixing with dust from battle-worn ground beneath them, the realization struck him hard. He was facing an opponent who refused to be defeated so easily. The duel begins. The arena buzzed with anticipation, a palpable energy coursing through the crowd as they settled into their seats, eager to witness the clash of titans. The air was thick with tension, and the metallic scent of the arena mingled with the distant echoes of warriors training in the background. Ethan Foster stood at one end, his heart steady, while Zur, the Fex champion, loomed at the other, a living embodiment of raw power and lethal intent. As the horn sounded, signaling the commencement of the duel, Zur launched himself forward with a primal roar that reverberated through the arena. His plasma-bladed axe glinted ominously in the harsh light, a weapon forged for destruction. Ethan's instincts kicked in. He had trained for moments like this. The world around him narrowed to a singular focus, the massive figure charging toward him. Zur's first strike came down like a meteor, aimed directly at Ethan's head. The sheer force behind it could have shattered bones and split steel. But Ethan was ready. He sidestepped with fluid grace, feeling the rush of air as Zur's web sliced through nothing but space where he had just stood. The ground beneath them erupted in a shower of molten rock as the axe embedded itself deep into the earth, hissing angrily as it met resistance. Pathetic human. Zur growled, yanking his weapon free and swinging again. This time he aimed for Ethan's torso, hoping to catch him off guard, but Ethan was already moving, ducking low and rolling to the side just in time to avoid another deadly arc of plasma. The crowd gasped collectively. They had expected a quick victory for Zur, but Ethan's agility was proving to be an unexpected challenge. He danced around Zur's strikes as if they were mere shadows, his movements precise and calculated. Each time Zur swung his axe, Ethan seemed to anticipate it, his body flowing like water around a rock in a stream. "Is this all you've got?" Ethan taunted, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding them. He could see Zur's frustration mounting. Each missed strike chipped away at the Fex champion's confidence. The crowd began to murmur among themselves, their earlier jeers replaced by whispers of disbelief. Zur snarled again, his patience wearing thin. "You will learn respect," he roared, launching another attack with renewed ferocity. This time he spun on his heel, bringing the axe around in a sweeping motion designed to catch Ethan off guard. But Ethan was ready. He had studied Zur's movements closely. He knew that every powerful swing left an opening somewhere else. As Zur completed his arc, Ethan darted forward into the gap created by Zur's momentum. With a swift motion, he delivered a sharp kick to Zur's knee joint, a calculated strike aimed at destabilizing the massive warrior. Zur stumbled slightly but quickly regained his footing, anger flashing in his yellow eyes. "You think you can defeat me with tricks?" he spat, wiping sweat from his brow with an irritated swipe of his arm. Ethan remained calm. He had faced opponents who relied solely on brute strength before. Those who underestimated him often found themselves flat on their backs. "It's not about defeating you," he replied coolly. "It's about showing you that there's more than one way to fight." The crowd watched in stunned silence as Ethan continued to evade Zur's increasingly desperate attacks. Each swing of the plasma axe seemed to grow heavier for Zur. Exhaustion began to seep into his muscles as he realized that this human was not merely surviving, he was thriving under pressure. Minutes passed like hours as Zur swung again and again, each strike more wild than the last. Sweat dripped from his reptilian skin onto the ground below, mixing with dust and grime from countless battles fought on this very stage. The once mighty champion was now visibly tiring. His breath came in ragged gasps as he struggled to maintain control over his weapon. Ethan seized upon this moment of weakness. He began to press forward cautiously, no longer merely evading but countering with calculated strikes of his own. A quick jab here, a swift kick there, each blow aimed at specific pressure points designed to sap Zur's strength further. The crowd began to shift restlessly in their seats. Disbelief hung heavy in the air like an impending storm cloud. They had come expecting a spectacle, a display of Feck's dominance, but what they were witnessing instead was something entirely different. A human outmaneuvering their greatest champion. Zur let out another guttural growl filled with frustration and rage. He charged forward once more, determined to end this duel decisively. But Ethan anticipated him yet again, this time sidestepping and delivering a powerful punch that connected squarely with Zur's ribs. The impact sent shockwaves through both combatants. The Feck staggered back, momentarily stunned, while Ethan remained poised and ready for whatever came next. It was clear now. Every time Zur swung that massive axe and missed, it drained him further, not just physically but mentally as well. "Is that all you've got?" Ethan repeated mockingly as he watched Zur struggle to regain composure. Zur clenched his jaw tightly. Pride mingled with desperation fueled his next attack. A wild swing aimed at Ethan's head that missed by mere inches once more. This time it felt different. There was no grace behind it, only fury and desperation. Ethan capitalized on this shift immediately, stepping inside Zur's reach once again before delivering another rapid series of strikes aimed at vulnerable areas on Zur's body, the ribs, solar plexus, and finally, a swift uppercut that sent Zur reeling backward. The mighty champion crashed against the arena wall with enough force to shake dust from its surface, his plasma axe clattering uselessly beside him as he struggled against gravity itself, trying desperately not just to rise but also maintain some semblance of dignity amidst growing humiliation. Ethan stood over him now, a figure calm amidst chaos, as silence enveloped them both like an oppressive blanket pressing down upon their shoulders while spectators held their breath waiting for what would happen next. For Zur lay defeated at last, not merely physically but mentally too, the realization settling heavily within him. He had underestimated this human warrior who dared challenge everything he thought he knew about combat, and perhaps even life itself. As Ethan extended a hand toward him, a gesture not just of victory but respect, the crowd erupted into hesitant applause, a sound that grew louder as they processed what they had witnessed. That human had bested one of their finest warriors through skill alone, a feat thought impossible until now and strategy. The arena erupted into a cacophony of sound as the crowd began to process the events that had just unfolded. The initial shock of witnessing Zur, the undefeated Feck's champion, brought low by a human, was slowly giving way to a newfound respect for Ethan Foster. The hesitant clapping that began with one dignitary soon spread like wildfire, transforming into a roaring applause that filled the air with an electric energy. It was a moment that would be etched into the annals of history, a turning point not just for Ethan, but for the perception of humanity among the galaxy's most formidable warriors. Ethan stood tall, his heart racing, but his mind remained clear and focused. He had trained for this moment, not just physically, but mentally. Every encounter he had faced leading up to this duel had prepared him for the unpredictability of combat. He understood that fighting was not merely about brute strength. It was a complex dance of strategy, timing, and psychological warfare. As Drew struggled to regain his composure, Ethan took a moment to observe his opponent closely. The Fex warrior's breathing was labored, each inhale accompanied by a grimace of pain. Sweat dripped from Zur's brow, mixing with the dust and grime of the arena floor, a stark contrast to the polished armor that had once gleamed with pride. Ethan recognized that Zur's overconfidence had been his downfall. He had underestimated not only Ethan's abilities, but also the resilience of human spirit. Analyzing Zur's fighting style, Ethan recalled the key moments from their duel, the way Zur relied heavily on his size and strength, swinging his plasma axe with reckless abandon. While those strikes were powerful, they also left him vulnerable. Each time Zur missed an attack, he not only wasted energy, but also exposed himself to counterattacks. Ethan had capitalized on this weakness, using agility and speed to the evade while delivering precise strikes at critical moments. In combat, understanding an opponent, the climax approaches. As Zur barreled toward him like a freight train, plasma axe raised high above his head ready for a devastating downward strike. Ethan focused entirely on timing once more. He could feel adrenaline coursing through him as he calculated every movement with precision. Just as Zur brought down the axe in one final desperate swing meant to end it all, Ethan sidestepped gracefully out of its path while simultaneously delivering a swift kick aimed directly at Zur's knee joint. The impact sent shockwaves through both combatants. The Fex staggered backward once more, but this time there was no recovery. There was only defeat looming ahead like an inevitable storm cloud darkening their battlefield. Ethan stood tall now, his breathing steady while Zur struggled against gravity itself, trying desperately not just to rise but also maintain some semblance of dignity amidst growing humiliation. The crowd erupted into cheers, some chanting Ethan's name while others expressed disbelief at what they had witnessed unfold before them. This duel had become more than just a fight. It was a testament, a declaration that humanity could stand toe-to-toe against even the fiercest warriors in existence if given half a chance. Turning the tide, the silence in the arena was finally broken by a slow, hesitant clapping. It started with one of the alien dignitaries, a tall, slender figure with shimmering blue skin, who seemed to be as surprised as anyone else. As if on cue, the crowd began to join in, their applause growing louder and more enthusiastic with each passing moment. What had begun as disbelief transformed into admiration, a recognition of skill and bravery that transcended species. Ethan stood in the center of the arena, his chest rising and falling steadily as he absorbed the moment. He had not only faced a formidable opponent, but had also dismantled the stereotype that humans were weak or incapable of standing against the might of the Fex. This was a victory not just for him, but for humanity as a whole. Zur, still catching his breath and grappling with the reality of his defeat, felt a mix of emotions swirling within him. Pride and shame battled for dominance. He had lost to a human, a species he had always viewed as inferior. Yet there was something undeniably impressive about Ethan's skill and composure. Zur's thoughts raced as he tried to reconcile these conflicting feelings. A moment of reflection. As Ethan extended his hand towards Zur, it was not merely an offer of assistance. It was an invitation to acknowledge their shared experience as warriors. Zur hesitated for a moment, his instincts urging him to reject the gesture. But deep down, he understood that true strength lay not just in physical prowess, but also in humility and respect for one's opponent. With a deep breath, Zur accepted Ethan's hand. The human pulled him up with surprising ease, steadying him as he regained his footing. Their eyes locked, Ethan's green meeting Zur's fierce yellow, and in that instant, an unspoken bond formed between them. They were no longer just combatants. They were warriors who had faced each other on equal ground. "I underestimated you," Zur admitted, his voice low but steady. "You fought well." Ethan nodded, appreciating the acknowledgement. "And you fought honorably," he replied. "You are a true warrior." The crowd erupted into cheers once more, this time for both fighters. The atmosphere shifted from one of skepticism to celebration. They were witnessing not just a duel, but a profound moment of understanding between two vastly different species. The aftermath. As Ethan and Juri stood together in the center of the arena, the implications of their duel began to sink in for everyone present. This fight had shattered preconceived notions about humanity's place in the galaxy. No longer would they be seen merely as survivors or thinkers. They could also be warriors, capable of standing toe-to-toe with even the fiercest opponents. In the days that followed, news of Ethan's victory spread like wildfire throughout the Andromeda system and beyond. The tale of a human besting a Vex champion became legendary, a story told around campfires and in military academies alike. It inspired countless individuals across various worlds to challenge their own limitations and question their biases. Zur found himself at a crossroads after their duel. The defeat weighed heavily on him, but it also ignited a spark of curiosity about humanity. He sought out Ethan in the weeks that followed, eager to learn more about this intriguing species that had so thoroughly challenged his beliefs. Their conversations revealed shared values, honor, respect, and an unyielding spirit in the face of adversity. Zur began to understand that strength came in many forms. It wasn't solely about physical might, but also about resilience and adaptability, qualities that humans embody so well. A new alliance. As time passed, Ethan and Juri forged an unexpected friendship, one that transcended their differences and united them through mutual respect and admiration. They trained together, sharing techniques from their respective combat styles, Zur teaching Ethan how to harness raw power, while Ethan introduced soon caught the attention of leaders from both human and Vex societies. Discussions began about potential collaborations between their races, joint training programs aimed at fostering understanding and cooperation rather than competition. The idea was revolutionary. It signaled a shift away from centuries of conflict toward unity based on shared experiences. Ethan became an ambassador for humanity among the Vex, a role he embraced wholeheartedly. He traveled across planets within the Andromeda system, sharing stories of human resilience while learning from other cultures along the way. Zur stood by his side during these endeavors, no longer just a champion, but now an advocate for change within his own society as well. He spoke passionately about what he had learned from Ethan, the importance of humility and open-mindedness in forging new paths forward. The legacy. Years later, when both warriors had long since retired from combat, they often reminisced about that fateful day in the arena where everything changed. Their friendship had become legendary itself, a testament to what could be achieved when barriers were broken down through understanding and respect. The arena where they first fought transformed into a symbol of unity, a place where beings from all walks of life gathered not just to witness combat, but also to celebrate collaboration across cultures. It became known as the Arena of Unity, hosting events designed to promote peace rather than conflict. Ethan Foster's name echoed through history, not merely as a human who defeated a Vex champion, but as someone who changed perceptions forever. His legacy lived on through countless generations who would come to understand that true strength lay not only in physical prowess, but also in compassion and connection with others. Zur often reflected on how much had changed since that day. He had learned invaluable lessons about humility and respect, qualities that define true warriors regardless of species or background. In this new era forged by their unlikely friendship, both humans and Vex thrived together, sharing knowledge, culture, and skills while building bridges where once there were walls. And so it was that two warriors from vastly different worlds united not just through combat, but through shared understanding, a legacy that would inspire countless others for generations to come.